Hi, everyone. You're listening to episode 75 of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. Thanks so much for inviting us to your table. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We're a group of diverse friends who offer our takes on the latest and greatest board games to hit our table. I'm your host, Daniela, the Goofy Noob, and I am joined today by the Collector.
Hey, this is David.
The Intellectual Introvert.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris.
And the Deluxeifier.
Hello, it's Pete.
Today, we're searching for the enemy among us, suspecting everyone and trusting no one as we tackle two games with hidden objectives. We'll start by gathering at our round table, queuing up quests, searching for swords, and rounding up relics, all while trying to identify a spy in Shadows over Camelot. Then it's off to outer space where we shore up a sabotage ship, arm ourselves against attacking aliens, and try to arrive at Earth uninfected in Nemesis. And finally, because we just can't help ourselves, we'll turn these games against each other, facing them off in the ultimate showdown, the Battle of the Funnest. But before we talk about one of our Grail games, David, what's our topic of discussion for today?
So our topic for discussion today is going to be, is player elimination a good board game mechanic? Are you pro player elimination or are you against it? We're going to have a little bit of a debate maybe and see what we're thinking, because both of these games have player elimination. So that'd be a good topic.
I do not like player elimination. If it is going to happen, I prefer it in a short game. Magical Athlete, we've played a little bit recently. There is a possibility of player elimination in that. If there's certain characters in there, the mouth can eat somebody, for example. But again, that race is over 3 minutes later. It doesn't really matter. We're going to talk about a situation in Nemesis probably today, later in the episode, David, where you can be out of the game for an hour and a half. And that's maybe not so much fun there. So I prefer not to have player elimination, especially in a longer game.
I think the only time I believe it's okay is if you know going into the game that you know you're going to be out for an hour and a half, and then that person understands that either they're out or the other people are still playing. And there has to be that, okay, we're all buying into this type of thing, so people aren't surprised like, man, I thought I was just going to be out for like maybe 10 minutes or something like that, and it ends up being really long. So only if everybody knows, understands, and has that buy-in.
Brings a book.
Yeah.
I'm okay with player elimination. A lot of the games now will make it where if you do get eliminated, some of the games will have some kind of way for you to come back into the game, whether you're a ghost or you're acting as part of, in the games that we're going to be playing or talking about today, there is a way that you can come in and you can kind of control the aliens that are going on. So it's kind of one of those things. I think it's okay if it's done correctly, and it's not that you're just out and then you're looking for another game.
Okay, interesting. I'm definitely against player elimination. I think that we should eliminate this from board game mechanics unless the game is like a really fast game, meaning it's about 15 minutes or something. Then I could see it, in that. But anything that's longer than that, I feel like it should just be a mechanic that should see the guillotine, I guess.
Would you be okay with it? Like had like as Pete said, where that eliminated person comes back, maybe they're a troublemaker or something like that, where they still had a part.
I mean, I would say, yeah, but then how about if somebody else gets eliminated too? Then what does that person do? Then what does that other person do? I think in Nemesis, right, we'll talk about it later, I think the first person that's out of the game could do something if they get eliminated, but if you're the second person out, we'll talk about it soon.
Okay.
Well, speaking of Nemesis, in the co-op version, if you die, someone can bring you back to life. Unless you're David, in which case we just walk around your corpse the entire time and just let you lie on the ground, bleeding out.
Yeah, which is really fun.
I'm super interested on this. If you guys are listening, let us know. If you've played either of these games, let us know what you guys think about player elimination. We'd love to see them and what you guys' thoughts are. All right, so thanks, David, for those. And those are our opinions on player elimination. A little bit of a mixed bag there, but we'd love to know, again, what you guys all have to say out there, and just let us know. You can send us an email at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media or checking out our website at fifthmeeple.com. And if you really want to help us grow, spread the word. Tell your friends about our podcast and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may listen. Merlin's beard. I'm not sure I trust you to actually pull this off, but let's get into our discussion of Shadows over Camelot.
Shadows over Camelot is a 3 to 7 player cooperative hand management game with an optional hidden traitor where players take on the roles of the Knights of the Round Table. attempting to complete a variety of quests to stem off the fall of Camelot. The game board offers several quests that a knight may participate in, including battling Saxons or Picts, jousting with the Black Knight, searching for the Holy Grail, Lancelot's armor or Excalibur, and the Dragon's Quest. Each player receives a coat of arms granting them a special ability and optionally receives a loyalty card where one player may become the traitor. Players then take sequential turns throughout the game. Unless you're willing to reduce your life points or add a siege engine around Camelot, your turn starts by drawing a black card for the progression of evil. These cards are never good, sometimes impacting players' health, restricting actions, or progressing quests in evil's favor. After that, you take one heroic action, which could include moving to a new quest, healing yourself, playing a special card from your hand, or performing an action related to the quest you're currently at, often, but not always, involving playing cards from your hand to progress the quest. Succeeding in quests gains white swords while failing them earns black swords. Alternatively, you can choose to accuse one of your fellow knights of being a traitor. If you're wrong, a white sword you've previously earned turns black, but if you're right, you earn a new white sword and the unmasked traitor takes a much more active role in trying to defeat the knights. The game is immediately lost and the traitor wins if 12 siege engines surround Camelot, 7 or more black swords are on the round table, or all of the loyal knights are dead. Otherwise, the game ends after a 12th sword is collected regardless of color. At that point, if a traitor exists but was not unmasked, 2 white swords are reverted to black. If more white swords then exist than black, the loyal knights win the game and dine well, eating ham and jam and Spamalot. Otherwise, the traitor, if any, wins the game, dealing the loyal knights a hefty blow, but don't worry, it's just a flesh wound. Shadows over Camelot was designed by Bruno Cathala and Serge Leggett and was first published in 2005 by Days of Wonder.
All right. Thanks for that overview, Chris. So Chris did just give us a good overview. So let's not really go into some of those gaming mechanics or whatever, but let's talk about when we played this game. I want to talk the things that were enjoyable in the game first. Let's go over some of the things that just make this game maybe unique. Maybe there's a moment you remember, and let's start talking about that. Because one of the things that I believe happened in this game was when we were playing, it was just wonderful banter at the table the entire time the game was played. And I think that that's really what brought this game to life for me. This actually made one of my top 15 spots on the recent episodes that we just released on our top 15 games of all time. But, you know, for me, again, I'm thinking back to this game of just how great the interactions were, how we were all accusing everybody of being the traitor and how people were wrong. Overall, it was just, for me, enjoyable. And I really love that when a game can bring out the best and the worst in people sometimes.
We smiled a lot while we played this game. I felt like every time we played this, there's a lot of, like you said, happiness. We had tons and tons of fun. Accusing people constantly without a formal accusation, just you shouldn't be doing that. Probably the best moment for me was in our last play. I think it was last week. We played a really quick 4-player game, which I'll have comments on later. But our 5th Meeple, Dave, was the traitor, and he had not been revealed yet. But we all had our suspicions, and I was trying to remove a catapult or a siege engine, and I rolled an 8, which means I automatically lose. And he practically jumped out of his chair, screamed out, "Yes!" And I was like, okay, now we know who the traitor is. And he just couldn't contain his giddiness at that. And so he did not make a very good traitor, although he did end up winning it.
Yeah, he really enjoyed that. I talked to him a little bit after that. He had a fun time with it. That's the best part of this game. I think you can play it without that traitor, but I would always include it if you could. The first time we played it, we shuffled up the cards and we actually played it and there was no traitor. And I think when Dave was talking to me about it, he was like, that's not the full game experience that he was hoping for. So when we played that last time with 4 of us, we made sure there was one seated in there. So we're looking around the table. We knew it was one of us, and I knew I wasn't the traitor. So I had a 33% chance of guessing who it was. And it was pretty, not completely obvious, but because the trick is you're progressing evil no matter what you do. And I make dumb mistakes all the time. So, if I go to one area, all of a sudden I'm a suspect because I did something, then I moved, and you're trying to explain it, and then that just makes you look more guilty. So but you're absolutely right. The banter going back and forth and that accusations and trying to figure out who it might be and who's on your side, that's a fun part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game really benefits from having a really simple rule set, and so it allows for people to have that banter. A lot of the games we play are complex Euros, and a lot of times, you're in the puzzle, you're in that efficiency puzzle, and you're trying to figure things out, so it doesn't lead to as much banter as like a game like this, where I feel like you can basically set somebody up within like 5 minutes, tell them the basic rules of the game, and then they can just go and play and explore this game. And I think that really helps with having that table talk above the table where you're not having to keep so much in your mind, so you're able to express those things. And I think that we see the benefit of that and what makes this game really shine.
I also think the game does a really good job, at least in my mind, of keeping a lot of tension on. I always felt like, okay, if not, it's a lost cause. It's close to a lost cause. But then somehow you stay in the game, you manage to stay alive. I do think it's very player count dependent, especially if there's a traitor in there. I think more players makes it easier. But at the same time, I'm constantly feeling like, okay, we're in trouble. Oh, we just get out of it. Oh, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We just get out of it.
Yeah.
And then you get enough white swords, and you don't know if you're going to get enough total swords to do it. And I never felt like I was sitting here waiting and nothing to do. I was always engaged. I was always having fun. And there was always that little bit of tension, but not so much that it was bad. It was a good tension and a fun tension.
I was going to say the game's difficult. It really is. I mean, it's not a cakewalk. You're not going to easily go through and accomplish it even without that traitor. We were close on doing that. And I was talking to Misty, one of the girls I work with that we play at the lunch group, and they play this a lot too. And one of the things we were talking back and forth about, well, is it worth calling out the traitor? And she says, no, we never call out the traitor, because as soon as you do that, all you're going to get is bad stuff coming at you from them. It makes it a whole lot harder. So there's also that part where, like you said, we knew who it was. We probably, or I should have probably not called out Dave, because then he at least has to help in some way. It may not be great, but at least he's not actively taking cards from us and making it even more difficult.
And we called him out too early, and there were not enough players to where once he was a traitor and he could do bad things every turn, he was getting turns way too often.
Yeah.
And we had way too far to go.
I agree.
Yeah, but Chris, to your point of every time I thought we were doing something or putting a catapult out, I'm like, oh man, this is it. Like, we're going to finish this game in like 20 minutes type of thing. But it was good, that tension, the word that you used, I think is accurate for this game, just to have that little bit of, like you said, tension there, that people are kind of, it's a little co-op-y too, where we're trying to work together. And I think that's why we don't experience the downtime at the table as well, because it's like, oh, should I go here? Should I do this? Should I try for the sword? Should I try for the chalices? Should I try for any of these other things that was going on? And I appreciate that in a game where you're not helping each other 100%, but it's like, well, yeah, why don't you two go there and do that and fight those people or try to move the track along? And so I don't know. I just, in a game, I find that I really appreciate that type of mechanism.
And if you're not doing that, you're spending your time going, why are you doing that, Pete?
Yeah.
What you doing over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually targeted at me.
Yeah.
I do like, and we won't go into too much detail about it, but I do like that each of the different roles that you have, the characters, that they have a little bit of a special power, something unique. King Arthur can hand out a card to somebody. And just having that little bit, being the character that can actually move and then take an action can be real powerful. So I think as you get those characters, and you may get them differently, as you play, the next game you might have a different one, but it gives you a little bit to explore, and you really want to leverage those characters and take advantage of those powers that you have. They're not by any means earth-shattering or earth-breaking, but if you can leverage them every time, it's definitely worthwhile. There's one that allows you to look at what that card is coming up with progressing evil, and it's nice because you know what it is if that's your character, but you could be lying and not having everybody know exactly that, if you're lying or telling the truth.
I think the other thing, David, I know we're going to get to the collector's corner, but is this game still in print? I know Chris mentioned it's 2005.
No, to my knowledge, this game is no longer in print, so we call it an OOP.
Gotcha. So I guess one of the other things I would say is I think this game has a lot of potential. I think it could use a reprint, but with like a lot cooler pieces or board or something, because it's pretty flat, right? It's pretty flat. It doesn't really have a lot of cool little pieces or anything like that. But I think, I don't know, in the future, maybe if they redesigned it, it would be really cool to see what they're doing with some of the other games. So that's just a little suggestion from
I mean,
the peanut gallery.
Yeah, I mean, you can go online and there's people that paint minis. I'm not a painter of minis, and so therefore you get a very gray mini when we play this game. So I think maybe if you look at some pictures of what other people have done to spice it up and paint their minis and stuff, you might see some cool sets out there potentially.
All right, let's talk about some of the things that maybe just didn't work in the game, maybe something that frustrated you, maybe something that needs to be shaken out a little bit more that would maybe benefit this game.
Well, I mentioned it earlier that if you call out the trader too soon, that can really be kind of a death blow to you and your teammates. It's not a bad thing. It's just something to be aware of. And I think you learn that over time. So that would be the one thing that I said that kind of brings this game down a little bit, because I would think that if you could figure out who it is and call them out, you should kind of get a bonus for that rather than be penalized, is the way that I see that happening.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the right time. You still want to call them out, otherwise you're going to lose some swords, but it's like, okay, I know we got this. Now I'm going to do it without having given that trader too much time. Or if they just start, okay, return, they're accusing, and then they may force your hand, which is probably what I would do if I was a trader at some point. Once you know it's me, I'd just start accusing.
Well, that's why they have the one card that is, if you are the trader, you can play that and just reveal yourself. So that could be a key component. If you get that card at the right time and you're the trader, you can really kind of take the game by storm.
Yeah, linked to that too. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll just bring it up here since it's linked. I do think lower player count makes it really tough with that trader. Without a trader, I think it would make it easier if you're playing just straight co-op, no hidden trader, because you can camp at a spot and be knocking out those quests faster. But again, once you have that trader and he's just doing bad things every time he comes around, it's just too often that bad things come out.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game is hard enough. I just think that for somebody who is playing this game, just know that this game is, I feel like the game itself is just stacked against you from the get-go. So just know that you're always kind of treading water, and sometimes, whether there's a trader or not in the game I feel like tends to win more often than it doesn't. So if you don't like that kind of feeling of always kind of treading water in a game where you feel like you can't do things, you might feel very restricted in this game. That might be a reason why you would not like to play this game, is because you feel like you just can't do anything. I know there's a lot of times in this game where, because the actions are so limited, I just was a little bit frustrated that I couldn't do more than I could do on my turn. And, it's just like, oh, I got to move here because I don't have cards. And then that's my whole turn. Then I got to wait for 6 other people. And then I got to do this. I could see people being frustrated with that. Just know going in, that's how this game is like. You're always kind of treading water. You never really get to swim.
I also felt like the top, if you're looking at the board, I don't know if the chalices are at the top, let's just say the bottom right-hand corner where you have to match certain cards, like 3s in a rows. I feel like we didn't visit that twice in a game that we played. And I'm just interested to know, like, if you guys think that we kind of just didn't hit that and it was like almost pointless or worthless. So we didn't think that the item that you got back from it was worth it. So I don't know. Did you play that in the other game you guys played?
I know the first game we played at Origins, we hit that a couple of times.
Okay.
We also lost. And I think what we learned there's certain things that if you're going to get them quickly. And then it's a matter of, okay, what are you in position then to do? Mm-hmm. But also, I think a couple of the games we had, they just weren't coming out. To me, you get a couple of picks come out, you're like, okay, can I afford? Maybe I just want that to happen. And like you said, it's not that bad. I'd rather that happen than one of these super bad things over there.
Yeah.
But then if you got the right hand, you can go, okay, I'm going to go get a quick win. You go and do it.
So maybe that was the missing kind of pieces, the hands and how they came out. Okay. Interesting. All right. So those are our thoughts on Shadows over Camelot. Let's take it over to the Collector's Corner. David, what do you got for us here?
Yeah, so right now I normally go over, since I don't know where you're listening from, we always go over that you can buy this normally on Amazon. In this case, you cannot buy Shadows over Camelot on Amazon just because it's no longer in print. So right now, if you're looking for a used copy of this game, it's going anywhere between $70 on the short end to $100 I've been seeing, which isn't too bad. The market's actually come down a little bit on this game. I see mostly it's around $85, but sometimes I'm seeing people selling it for $60. If you can get it for $60, I would say go for it. That's a pretty bargain price to pick something like this up.
All right, let's take it around the room. Final thoughts, David, starting with you.
Yeah, so my final thoughts on this game, I really enjoyed this game as far as if you're looking for a game where you can kind of sit back, have some great banter with some people, play something that is decently hard to try to win. I think that this game might be calling your name. I definitely like this game for certain situations where I don't really have to think as much and I could just play and interact with the people in the room. I feel like if that's your style, then this game is probably made for you. Gonna kick it over to Pete.
Yeah, I'm glad I picked this game up. It was actually at one of the local game stores that sells used games, and I was able to pick it up at a very sweet price. So very glad I did. It was one of the games that I've wanted for a long time. I remember when I was getting back into the gaming scene and I watched on Tabletop with Will Wheaton, he did a playthrough on this. And it just really caught my attention. I was really excited to play this for the longest time. I've had it for about a year. And when we talked about battling this against another game, I was super excited to be able to play this. So I really like this game. I'm glad I have it in my collection.
Don't be shy. Tell the people what they want to know. How much you pick it up for?
I picked it up for $20.
Ooh, very nice.
I don't like to brag, but
That was great.
it was a good price at Diversions.
Diversions in Newberry?
Diversions in Newberry, yes.
Okay.
Shout out Diversions.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, this was, I had a blast playing this every time we played it. Not a game I'm going to buy only because I'm the introvert. You can't play this by yourself and try to fool yourself that you're the hidden traitor or anything like that. I do also think that it's at least in my mind, very player count dependent. I don't think I want to play this at 4 or less. 5, we're the fifth meeple, 5 and above. We played it at 5, we played it at 6, we might have even played it at 7. All of those were great. High player counts. I think it's a fantastic game. You'll be engaged the entire time.
All right. Yeah, for me, again, I place this in one of my top 15 spots for top 15 board games of all time for me. Again, I had a lot of fun playing this. I would play this kind of to Chris's point with quite a few people sitting around the table. I think it'd be a good New Year's game or something like that when people are up for playing something and want to have fun and just banter and enjoy the evening. So nice, lighthearted evening game. I think this is a great game. So yeah. Hey guys, I need to calculate the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow. So now is probably a good time to transition to our discussion of Nemesis.
Nemesis is a 1 to 5 player semi-cooperative science fiction dungeon crawler where you and your crewmates battle alien intruders while attempting to return to Earth from a doomed spaceship. The game board representing that spaceship has a modular setup with 17 discoverable rooms connected by corridors. At the start of the game, each player receives 2 objective cards and chooses a character. Each character has its own deck of 10 action cards, a weapon, and 2 quests which yield additional items when completed. The objectives are not always compatible with each other and in fact may require that another character not survive. At the start of each round, players draw up to a hand of 5 cards. These cards can be played to take the actions shown on them or used to pay for other actions, either from other cards or standard actions. During the round's player phase, each player must take 2 actions or, if taking less than 2 actions, must pass. Whenever players move into a previously undiscovered room, the corresponding tile is turned over to reveal it, with an exploration token determining how many items are in the room to be discovered and maybe prompting other events such as a fire, a room malfunction, or the dreaded slime. Also, whenever a player enters an unoccupied room, regardless of whether it had previously been explored, they must make a noise roll and place a noise marker in the corresponding corridor. Whenever a player makes noise in a corridor that already contains a noise token, an intruder shows up, dictated by a draw from a preceded bag of intruders, including larvae creepers, adults, breeders, and the queen, any of which may attack the player depending on the remaining hand size. Players may also use their turns to attack, pick up objects, trade or craft items, use a room special action, use an item they possess, or any of a series of actions on cards remaining in their hands. After all players have passed, the event phase begins, during which intruders attack players in a room with them and potentially become damaged themselves. An event card then causes certain intruders to move towards players, then causes things to happen that are almost certainly not good. The game then continues to the next round, and ends after 15 rounds when the self-destruct sequence is completed, when the 9th malfunction or fire token appears, or when the last living player on the ship dies, hibernates, or flees in an escape pod. You win if you survived and completed your objective, unless of course you've been contaminated along the way, in which case you'll face a grisly death as the intruder eats you from within. You know, normal space stuff. Nemesis was designed by Adam Kopinski and was first published in 2018 by Awaken Realms.
All right. Thanks for that excellent overview, Chris. All right. So we played this a couple times, and I believe you guys played this at Origins as well. Yes, they're nodding their heads. And so let's talk about some of the times that we've played the game, some of the things that stood out to us that we really enjoyed about this game.
You know, I'll start with this one. The thing that jumps off this game is the way it just looks at the table. I don't say this about a lot of games, but when it comes to theme, this game is just dripping with it. And that's what entices me to actually want to play this game. I think, you know, it's one of those games where you see across, like at a convention or whatever, and you just want to get in on that action because you're like, that looks so cool. And this game has that in spades as far as what it looks like and the theme behind it. And, you know, so to me, you know, that's the very first thing I think about when I think of Nemesis is just that theme and the way that table presence looks, and I just want to sit at that table and play that game. So, you know, if a game can do that, it's already winning a little bit in my book.
You talk about table presence. I've been seeing a lot lately. On Facebook, there's a group called the Gehenna Gaming Group. They do They do broadcast, show playing, and they teach people and all that, but they also do a lot of posting. And I believe it's the guy who runs that group. He has a 3D printout of the entire Nemesis board. I mean, it must have taken him like a year and a half to do it. But talk about table presence. And, each one of those corridors is like a circular corridor to walk through with slots to close and open the doors, etc. It's really, really well done. I thought about printing it, and I was like, it's going to take me a year. So I didn't do it, but it was pretty impressive.
That's cool.
And it's funny because David, when it is on the table, it's all black, but it makes sense. It's dark, it's gloomy. The corridors, you can tell you're not kind of questioning, oh, can I go here or do that? But I agree. I think that the table presence is enticing. And I remember I was talking to Chris, and I'm like, all right, so the theme, and we were always going through the flavor text a little bit, and it's just like, no, the movie Alien. Like, think of that's what this game is. So I think that's helpful.
Yeah. A lot of time our group, we're trying to take pictures that we could post online that you guys might see. But for this game, nobody had to remind each other, hey, take a picture. The cameras were out. Pete was taking pictures because the queen was right behind him. And I think that just shows you what kind of table presences have, that we don't have to remind ourselves, hey, we need to take a picture of this. We're just doing it naturally because it looks so cool.
Yeah, the one thing you mentioned, though, this is the game Aliens. And not only the table presence of it, but the actual feeling of dread that you have as you are trying to creep around on this spaceship. You're afraid to make noise. It really comes through, and you feel that tension building. We played one of the games, and we just see all of these noise markers all over the place, and you just know they're coming. And when it comes, it's going to be bad. And just that feeling and that buildup of that anticipation of when those aliens start attacking, and then you're really fighting for your life. And that's what it feels like. On top of that, you are trying to accomplish some of your minor goals, which might be make sure the engines are on so you can get to where you need to, maybe set the navigation. Or you might have a role where you're trying to eliminate a player. And we will talk about that in a little bit. But all this time, while all this stuff is going on, you're also trying to achieve your goal, your personal goal. And that really makes the game really ramp up and just really what draws you in and keeps you engaged in the game, because you're trying to figure out, how am I going to not only just survive, but do what I need to do.
I think one of the things that so the second game we played, I actually enjoyed trying to blow up the ship. Like, that wasn't even really my goal. I needed to get off the ship, but once I realized I couldn't get to where I needed, and I take that back. I did get to where I needed, but I saw that other people were going to survive, or the person I needed to die was going to. I was just like, all right, we're blowing this up. And I think everybody was like, what are you doing over there? What are you doing over there? And I didn't care that I won or lost this game. Shocker, right? But that for me was a really enjoyable thing where I'm just like, I'm going to go blow these engines up. I'm going to go to that room and shut that thing off and try and lock David in the door and crash the door. And so I don't know. That was something for me that was extremely enjoyable.
Well, and picking up on that, because I saw what you were trying to do. You were manipulating the engines. I'm like, I might not have to worry about it, because one of my goals was make sure the ship gets destroyed. Well, if you're doing that, I don't have to focus on that. I can do something else. And not that I was trying to kill Chris, but
but you were.
But I did. But again, reading the table, and everybody else has their own objectives, and I think that's really unique with this game. It's not just simply a hidden traitor role like we talked about in the other game. There's much more complexity in this and depthness of play.
Yeah, the game allows you to be mischievous.
Yes.
I mean, you don't see that a lot in board games, and this game allows you to still do your goals, but at the same time be mischievous and kind of mess up other people just because. It's a good time.
I felt like I was channeling you, David, because you always go to in Lord's Skull Point. You always go in Architects Down, and you don't care if you get negative things. And I was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah, we played this co-op the first time we played it at Origins, and then every time since then it's been competitive. I like it both ways. I think the competitive is more fun. Like you said, you get to be a little bit mischievous. This game has a lot of take that in it. Obviously, I'm usually not a fan of take that. For some reason, I accept it here, and it's fun here. It's still
growing.
Well. Until David throws me out of the room.
Oh man!
One turn before I hit my victory condition, and next thing you know, I'm thrown out into a room with some intruder. That wasn't really fun, but at the same time, it kind of was. It was funny.
Yeah.
But the best part was he thought he was winning, and then he ended up dying, and he didn't win. But it's a lot of fun when you get that card and you say, okay, and you'd beat the die. And maybe I don't even have to hide it. I might not even have to hide it, right? Just maybe I want to keep you alive long enough to attract the intruders in your direction. Maybe let them do it. But as long as I get off, I don't really care unless you're Danielle. It's like, hey, I don't care if I win or lose as long as you guys don't win.
Yeah,
as long as everybody else loses,
that's
I
where
don't
I
care.
was
Well,
going.
if there's an
yeah.
anarchist on the ship, we got to get out of here.
Pete still won. Crap.
Yeah. And Pete, you kind of touched on it. We talked about tension when we were talking about Shadows over Camelot. The tension ratchets up really quickly here. And I think we had one game where we were doing a really good job of keeping things away. And it was like, well, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden something did. But when it starts to ramp up, it gets really serious really fast. And all of a sudden, it ain't fun anymore. You're just trying to survive. Where can I go? How can I make them eat David instead of me? Just something along those lines.
I mean, the other thing I like about Nemesis is that it does have a lot of good randomization. There's a lot of tiles that you don't even get to see in your first playthrough. I think that keeps this game fresh. So if you are looking, if you do like to play games a lot, and I think Nemesis is a game that you should play over and over to get good at and to figure out all the nooks and crannies, there is a lot of randomness that goes on in the startup. So you're always seeing different things. Different parts of the ship won't be included every turn you play. And I think that's important in a game like this, where, you're playing this game, you're probably playing it more than once because the rules overhead to get into a game like this is fairly high. So it's a game that you're going to want to play multiple times, and it doesn't get samey as far as, what the layout of the ship is. You don't see everything in the first playthrough. Maybe in the first 4 or 5 playthroughs, you're going to see new stuff every time, which I think is a good thing.
All right, so let's move on to some of the things that maybe kind of frustrated us in this game. I think I'm just going to lob that grenade out there and just talk about the rule book as we were playing the game. And again, maybe it's because this is a harder, heavier game, but we consulted that rule book probably 70 times during a game, which was, it helped, it slowed down the game a little bit, and it wasn't horrible, but I just feel like when you are consulting the rule book that much, it takes a little bit of something away. And maybe it goes to David's point of play the game, keep looking at it, get more of the cards out, learn the rooms, understand your person. But that was a lot.
The more we played it, the less we had to go in, but we were still going in a lot. And I think it's a really complex game.
Yeah.
We're still relatively early in our playing of it. But I will say is the theme helps a little bit there. I remember one time we were questioning, I think David, you're like, well, wait, why would the intruder move away? I'm in here. And it was exactly right. So the theme works with the mechanisms. An intruder's not running away. It's sitting there. It's got a lunch. It's sticking around. So it's a little bit helpful there, but there's just a lot of rules. I think anything where there's just so many rules and so many things with here's the 5 steps you got to follow. We're trying to get it right.
Yeah, I got it listed down here, the procedures and the steps per round. The game, the problem that I have with the game is it's long, but it also can be very quick if things come out bad for you to begin with. I know Bob was able to join us for one of our playthroughs, and he loves this game. He has all the expansions and that, so he was excited to play with more than just the normal 3 of us. So playing 4, he really enjoyed that. But we talked earlier about the player elimination possibility, and I think that's one of the things that can bring this game down. The first game that I played, I took the soldier, and he's not good. He's
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, he's just not good. Again, maybe there's a certain scenario where that works out very well for you, but the only thing I can do is shoot things and all that, and that's why I didn't have as much fun when I was the captain of the ship. It was great because I got to order Chris out of the room and, go fight those things. So I think there's a little discrepancy on maybe what those characters' powers can do. Each one has a little bit of unique thing. Chris is shaking his head. He was not happy with that. But again, I didn't know if you were trying to kill me either. So
I probably was.
you probably were. But I think that's the only thing about it. I think our plays of this game, again, either because of the procedures or just how long it took, I think each of the plays were close to 3 hours, which, again, for a game is fine going into it. At least the theme keeps me engaged in that amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, we watch videos, we read the rule book through, before we play a game. And there's just so many edge cases. I feel like it's just, finicky is the word that comes to mind. There's just, even when you're walking through procedures, because there's so many different systems in the game, it's like, okay, this triggered, so now we have to go through this system. And it's just a lot to remember. When we played at Origins, we had kind of a game master, and she walked us through all that. And the experience was like smooth. So my suggestion is if you have somebody that will walk you through, kind of narrate the experience, kind of play host, that is how my preferred way to play Nemesis is. Instead of me having to figure out every little rules case or edge case, is just have somebody there that knows the game well enough to be kind of that game master. And I think this game just, goes a step above if you can find that person that's willing to do it.
Yeah, I decided I was going to do a cheat sheet, and I ended up with
3 pages.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 pages that were just full. It was a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to voice potentially an unpopular complaint here, especially being an Awakened Realms game. A lot of people probably love the minis. I do not. I think they're incredibly detailed. They're incredibly cool. They're also incredibly big. And so if you get more than one of them in a room, and especially if somehow you get 3 in a room, they're not fitting in there. And maybe that's part of the point. Hey, thematically, they're tough to fit, but this is a 2-part beef, because the second part is you have to track damage on each one of these individually, and there's nothing built in to be able to have those cubes fit on there. And if you have to figure out, okay, which one does this cube go with, and when there's multiple in the room, it's really tough. If you have to move them from one room to another, it's really tough. And so what is supposed to be a really cool part of the game, and partway it is, also becomes a pain in the butt when you're trying to figure out, okay, how much damage does it have? It's still alive, etc. So really cool minis that I could do without.
Yeah, the last item that I had is you have the ability to craft an item. Yeah. I think in all the games we played, nobody ever tried to craft them.
Right.
I don't even know what the benefit of crafting that item would be. It doesn't seem like it gives you any benefit, because those cards are hard to come by to begin with. You may only have 1 or 2 opportunities to search in an area, and then they're gone. And to try to take 2 cards, combine them into one thing that, again, I don't even know what it does. What do I make, a fire extinguisher or something?
Well, one of them makes an antidote. If you need an antidote, it probably makes sense to craft it, right? Because you're not going to win otherwise. But my guess is that comes in more when you get a whole bunch of plays under, and you're not worrying so much about, okay, I see this, I know how to accomplish my goals. You got a little more time to craft that item you may need. I agree. I've never crafted an item,
right.
And if I tried, I'd be dead. By
It
the time,
seems like
it
seems like a lot of work for a Molotov cocktail that you're like, okay, I'm going to throw this and do maybe 1 damage depending on what gets flipped out. Like, I'm not wasting my time getting those cards.
Yeah. And maybe if you get a couple of things you don't need, maybe that's when you can craft it. But my guess is really experienced players can do it. I ain't there yet.
Yeah,
I wasn't there yet.
I think one of the other things that I found very difficult was moving on this board from one end to the other. If you had to go and, let's just say, check where the ship was going or go back to a control room, if you had any of those goals that you needed to finish or do, I think that's partially why I gave up on my goal, was because I was like, I am never going to be able to make it to that room to shut off that and make it all the way back to an engine room. Because, the engine rooms, there's 3 on the bottom. You have to go all the way around and kind of loop around. They're not, touching, which, again, thematic. But I don't know. I thought it was going to be very difficult, because every time you're doing that, you're taking damage or you're doing something or you're making noise and you got to do a lot. And to me, it was some of those goals I think can be really difficult to get to the end of them if you had them.
I ran into that too when I was playing as a soldier. One of my goals was to do something or turn something on in one of the rooms. It was at the actual last room that was flipped over. Yeah. And at that point, that's why I said I was running off. Chris didn't need to worry about killing me because I was doing a good job by myself. So, at that point, I'm kind of like, well, if I die, do I get out of the game quicker? So, but that goes back to that player elimination. It really didn't help me out. But once I did die, bad things started happening to you guys too. So I didn't have to wait too long.
Yeah, I mean, we played the base game, and there is one of the aliens is called a breeder, and we never saw the breeder. I don't even know how the breeder comes out. Me and Chris were trying to figure it out for the longest time, and I don't even know if we came to a conclusion, but we never saw the breeder come out. Maybe, Chris, you could allude to more.
The breeder comes out. It's linked to the creeper, and I think if the creeper comes out of the bag but we killed the creeper early a couple of times. Creeper came out, we killed it. It's like, okay, the breeders will never come out now. Yeah. And I did read online. I was like, hey, are we playing this right? Are we doing something wrong? And it immediately came up as, yes, this is a thing, and that just makes the breeders all that much more amazing when they come out. And I think you and I are sitting here like, yeah, but I kind of want to see a breeder.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I want to experience the breeder. We can't get them out.
All we see is adults. We really want to see a breeder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I still don't know what they do, but yes, looking forward.
They're bad.
All right, so those are our thoughts on Nemesis there. Let's transition over to the Collector's Corner.
Yes, right now you can buy Nemesis online on Amazon. It's $131.91 at the time of this recording. On the used market, you can get it anywhere between 90 and 100, so it is holding its value pretty high. A lot of the copies are even more expensive than that because they have painted miniatures or they have other things that are in there. But I would say the cheapest I've seen this game is around $90 right now.
All right. Final thoughts, David.
My final thoughts is I think you get a lot of good storytelling. If you're looking for that kind of storytelling game where you and your buddies can talk about it, afterwards, all the different things that happened, it will be a game that you remember a lot of things on. But I do think the game runs a little bit long. And not only that, but if you do get eliminated for whatever reason, you should tell people if you're going to just play this one game, they should probably bring a book or a couple of different books or something else to do. Because if you do get eliminated at the wrong time or somebody takes the aliens before you because you're the second person eliminated, you could be sitting there for a while because there are 15 rounds in the game. And I think it tends to go long a lot of times, but that's just me. Passing it on to Pete.
Yeah, I enjoyed the game when we played it. My buddy Bob has it. I have no desire to buy it. I can play your copy or with Bob. We might even play coming up on one of the game nights we might be having soon. So we might play it again. I enjoy the game. It's super thematic. You just got to be ready for that experience of the game. So as long as you're going into it, that's going to be the game probably for that night. If you're doing it during a weeknight, just keep that in mind when you're getting ready to dive into it. As David said, hopefully somebody at the table is experienced at it and can help move the game along. Otherwise, it's going to be even longer than it could be. Chris?
Yeah, I enjoyed this game a lot. I really just wish it didn't cost so much. I'm not a big mini guy. I wish, and I'm going to be throwing out an airlock by probably some people listening, but I wish it didn't have those minis. Give me some standees and knock $30 off the price. I'd buy it today. Right. This is a game that's perfect for me that I could play this multi-handed. I could just set it up on my table, come back to it an hour at a time, and it'd be a great game for that. I'm not going to pay $130 for it, though. I don't need it that badly. I've got other games, but I would love to own it. Give me a non-deluxified version. I'll buy it today.
I'll find it for you at half
I might be
price.
selling, so I'll talk to you later.
Oh, there you go. Make him an offer. All right. I think my final thoughts are some of the same sentiments that everybody's kind of already said. I do agree that it needs kind of a table leader to kind of explain the game and know what's going on. I think it was a fun game. I enjoyed playing it the second time through much more than the first. And I think if somebody could lead that and kind of knock off some minutes, hours of the game just by leading the pack through that, it would be great. I enjoyed the theme. But yeah, I would never buy this or try and teach it. So let's just be honest there.
Hey, teach your dad to play this
my
instead.
gosh. Yeah. So yeah, tough. But yeah, those are our final thoughts. I feel a slight pressure from inside my chest. Now is probably a good time to pack it up and head over to today's Battle of the Funnest.
All right, everyone, the moment of truth has arrived. It's time to separate the men from the boys and the games from the toys. We're pitting these games head-to-head against each other in the ultimate face-off. In one corner, weighing in at 2.57 out of 5 with an overall BGG rating of 7.1. First taking a seat at the table in the 12th century, slaying dragons and picks like twigs and sticks, earning boards and swords as legendary awards, the Arthurian legend, Tristan's Trophy, a true grail game, Shadows over Camelot. In the other corner, weighing in at 3.48 out of 5 with an overall BGG rating of 8.3, bursting out of my chest after leaving the nest, spreading fire and malfunctions at corridor junctions, the alien advocate, the xenophilic zealot, at this table, no one can hear you scream, Nemesis. And now let's see which game is objectively the best in today's Battle of the Funnest Showdown. For anyone new to the show, we're evaluating these games head-to-head, 5 different categories: theme and production, mechanisms, value for your time, replayability, and the fun factor. The game that gets the most votes wins each category, and the game that wins the most categories takes the prize in our Battle of the Funnest. Let's start sniffing out a winner and get it started with theme and production. David.
Yeah, for me, this one's actually pretty easy. I know they both have good theme and what they're trying to produce, but Nemesis just takes it the cake for me. I feel like the production and the theme go really well together, and to me it's just, if I'm looking at them both, I'm gonna pick Nemesis almost every time on this category. It's pretty easy on this one. I'm gonna kick it over to Daniela.
Yeah, I agree with Nemesis winning this category for me based on just the feel of that pressure of being in that spaceship in the airlocks, trying to not make noise. That for me overall came through much more than Shadows of Camelot. Pete.
You're in the movie Aliens. It's just going to take it. Nemesis wins this hands down. theme. You get that dread feeling. Creatures are coming at you. No comparison for me. Chris.
Yeah, I went back and I watched Alien. I got it from the library, watched the full thing through. I was like, oh my goodness, that game nailed it. And I went back and I played Nemesis again. I was like, it's perfect. I think Shadows over Camelot's okay, but it's nothing special on production. The theme's okay. The Hidden Traitor certainly comes through, but I didn't feel like a knight, going around completing quests where I felt like I was in a ship battling these aliens. So Nemesis takes theme and production for me by a long shot. So 4-0, Nemesis is the winner in theme and production. We'll move on to mechanisms, and I'll kick it to Pete.
Mechanisms for me on this game, Nemesis has a lot of them, and I think it's well done, but there's just so many mechanisms. It's a complicated game, and with Shadows over Camelot, I get some of the same feelings where movement is hard. There's that buildup of tension that's coming, and for me, I just feel like Shadows over Camelot does it in more of a streamlined manner for me. So as much as I like both of these games, and I think Nemesis is great, I'm going to give this one just by an edge to Shadows over Camelot. Daniela.
I'm going to actually go more than an edge and give it to Shadows over Camelot, just for the simple fact of what I said earlier about consulting the rule book just way too much for the first couple initial plays. Again, I get it that we're new, and maybe some of that knocks itself off as you play more of the game, but I think for the clarity and cleanness of mechanisms, Shadows over Camelot takes it for me. Chris.
Yeah, Shadows over Camelot has a lot of poker-like mechanisms in it. That's okay, but to me, it's nothing special. Nemesis, we've talked about, it has a lot of detailed mechanisms. They can be hard to keep track of, but they're also really, really well designed. They tie into the theme. I talked about that earlier with respect to, well, why would that happen? And it turns out it wouldn't. I love bag pulling. There's a tension of what's coming out. Hand management's done well. Combat and damage mechanisms clever. Not even close for me. I'm going with Nemesis, and I'll kick it to David.
So when I think about this, I actually normally go for the simpler mechanics in a game. But for whatever reason, when I think about Shadows over Camelot, I just don't like the mechanism. I just think it's, okay, I flip over, I have to do evil every turn. I just don't personally like it. I understand what it's doing. I just don't like it. So when I look at Nemesis, kind of for all the things Chris said, I'm just going to give the edge to Nemesis. I do think that, the noise, I like the way the tension's built in through the mechanics. And so for that reason, I'm going to go with Nemesis tonight.
All right, we have a 2-2 tie on mechanisms. We do have a fifth meeple that doesn't sit at a microphone, but he does sit at our table. He sends in his picks in case we need him to break a tie, and we need him now. Pete, what did Dave have to say?
Well, this is interesting because I think we get both sides of this. So let's read this and see what you guys think. He says, when I can feel the theme of the game in Nemesis and don't realize all the different mechanisms, that is a great game. Everything comes together and it doesn't feel clunky or complex.
So he's going with?
He's going with Nemesis.
Okay.
All right, so Nemesis with a tiebreaker takes mechanisms 3-2, takes a 2-0 lead overall. We're going to go now to value for your time. I will start, and this one's actually a tough one for me. Nemesis is really long, right? But it's also really good. I've never had a game like David, though, where I die 2 hours in, and then it's like 90 minutes later, the game maybe comes to an end. Shadows over Camelot's much shorter, and I enjoyed 100% of every play. But it's kind of situation dependent for me. How big's the group? Who are they? How much time do I have? But I need to pick one. So I'm going to go with the one that I'll probably buy at some point, which to me is an indicator of value for my time or otherwise. I'm going with Nemesis. I'll kick it to Daniela.
All right. So for value for your time on this, yes, I think both of them, depending on who you're playing with, matter. And for that reason, I think the value in the game, I had fun in both games, don't get me wrong. And I think for different reasons, both of them could win this for me. But I think for me and my time, I'm going to go with Shadows over Camelot. And it's not just because it's shorter game or anything like that. It is that during that game, and I'm going to mix in a little bit of fun here, but the value that I got of it was the fun portion of the game. And for me, that's why I'm giving it to Shadows over Camelot. Pete.
I agree with you, Daniela. Shadows over Camelot for me gives me an experience that I enjoy with the people at the table. I think it gives it to me in a better package. Nemesis on the average was taking us 3 hours. We played Shadows over Camelot in about an hour. And when I look at that value for my time, Granted, there may be times where I want to play Nemesis, but I am probably more excited to play Shadows over Camelot. I always talk about this. That game's going to be a lot easier to get to the table with inexperienced players. So that value for me and the time that I can share it with people, I think Shadows over Camelot is going to give it to me. David.
You know, Pete, I don't agree with you on most things, but tonight I'm going to agree with you on this one. Kind of stole everything I was going to say, so we're in agreement on that. I am going to go with Shadows over Camelot for value for my time. I just like the quicker nature. I feel like I get that full experience that I'm looking for that Nemesis also provides, but it does it in a faster fashion. I think if Nemesis could cut down the time to like an hour and a half, I'd probably pick that. But for right now, because it's like a 3+ hour game, at least for where we are as a game group, I'm going to go with Shadows over Camelot.
All right, value for your time. Shadows over Camelot comes out from under the table, takes the victory there. It's still 2-1 for Nemesis. We're going to move on to replayability, and I'll kick it to Daniela.
All right, so for replayability, after considering both of these games, I'm going to go with Nemesis on replayability because when we were playing Shadows of Camelot, the games that I had played seemed a tad samey, really because we did not hit that one area of the game. You know, we kept talking about who we were going to fight, you know, the Picts or the other group. Sorry, I can't think of it. But, you know, and that seemed a little bit, okay, we're all trying for the same thing. We're all trying to get the sword. And if we don't get the sword, we're just going to abandon it. But let's try and get the grail. So while I really enjoyed the game, I think that, Nemesis will have a different person every time, a different stack of cards every time, different just variability, I should say, in that game. So that's going to be my choice. David.
Yeah, this one was a hard one for me. I came in thinking I would go with Shadows because I do think it has a lot of player interaction that I like. I like playing poker. You know, I like that, you know, I'm reading other players for most of that game. But when I just think about the long haul, and I played Shadows a lot more than I played Nemesis, but I feel like there's so much more to explore in Nemesis. I know we're only judging the base game, but I know that there's expansions for Nemesis that have different aliens and other stuff like that. And it makes me want to see what else Nemesis can bring to the table. Even though it is a longer experience, I do think it has vastly more replayability than what, you know, Shadows over Camelot, you know, can play. In fact, I always ask myself, you know, Shadows, I wish you had different maps or different other quests that I could interact and mix and match with mods, and they just doesn't have that. So for me, I'm going to go with Nemesis tonight. I'm going to send it over to Chris.
Shadows over Camelot is fun. It's also the same thing over and over again, at least in my mind. Nemesis has tons of variability, as Daniela was saying, the board, the bag, the objectives, the characters, just keep going on. There's a lot of it there. Clear winner for me on replayability is Nemesis. Pete, doesn't matter what you say, but what do you say?
You guys are all right. It's Nemesis by far.
All right, so another sweep for replayability, 4-0. Nemesis takes that. We go on to the fun factor. I'll start this one as well. I mentioned earlier that I had fun 100% of the time during every play of Shadows over Camelot. I also enjoyed Nemesis. I'm not sure I'd call it fun. It's a different kind of enjoyment. And there were some times when it was a bit irritating. I never felt that at all playing Shadows. So this is going to be my first vote for Shadows over Camelot, and I'll kick it to Daniela.
Yeah, for me, it's Shadows over Camelot as well, just for the table banter and the accusations of the traitor. For all those reasons, I just think the fun, it was heightened. There was a little bit of agitation during Nemesis, as Chris kind of just said, you know, whether you're getting kicked out of the game or whether you're dying or losing or whatever. So, you know, I'll be kind today and say that Shadows over Camelot was more fun. David.
Yeah, so for me on this one, you know, I like to judge the fun factor by big moments that I remember in games. I feel like both of these games had standout moments in my memory. You know, there's just a lot of fun. But one of the games I feel like is way more take that, meaning that if I'm having fun, Chris is probably not having fun because I'm blasting him out of corridor or something like that, which is very fun for me. But
Not for me.
But as far as everything goes, every time I play Shadows over Camelot, I feel like everybody at the table has a lot of fun doing it. And for that factor, and just the memories kind of being equal as far as stand-up moments go, I'm going to go with Shadows over Camelot for the fun factor, because I'd rather see everybody have fun, not just me wailing on Chris sometimes, you know, which is fun for me, but not for Chris. Passing it over to Pete.
Yeah, the smiles that are on the around the table when you're playing Shadows over Camelot, it's just so much fun. You mentioned the time when David was the traitor, and he just jumped out because he couldn't contain that excitement that he had. And for me, that's what makes a game fun. So I am going Shadows over Camelot.
All right, Shadows over Camelot sweeps the fun factor, but that's going to do it. And with a score of 3-2, Nemesis eats the competition to win today's Battle of the Funnest.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of yet another episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our discussion, and if you'd like to get in touch, just email us at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com or reach out to us on social media. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, remember, trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Adios, amigos.
What's with the glove?
My hand went in my pocket, and it's like, oh, a glove. And I go, hey, look at that. Just,
Chris is wearing one glove, guys. Hey, guys, I need to calculate the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow. What? Is that what that means? Okay.
yeah, it's from Monty Python.
Okay, all right.
You win. No. Okay. I was so mad when you threw me out of that corridor. So mad.
It was me. I pushed you out.
I think David did something to do. You both.
Well,
just got
he did too. But yeah, it was great because you slammed the door in front of me, and then the alien knocked it down, and then I'm like, well, I'm gonna go in there. I don't know what his objective is. I'm gonna order him out to go battle that other one.
Yeah,
that
Pete screwed you first, and then you thought you were getting out after Pete, and then I screwed you a second time, which is even greater.
Getting screwed left and right.
I know.
Good times.
Good if you can have it.
I'm actually surprised at who won that battle.
What?